Today on Defining Wealth Beyond the Numbers, we're joined by Robbie Bunting, broker in charge and owner of Hilton Head Properties Realty Rentals. Robbie's been shaping the Hilton Head real estate market for more than 4 years. And one thing that really stood out to me in our conversation is how deeply he believes in helping people create long-term value through property ownership. He brings a rare blend of local expertise, sustainable thinking, and genuine care for the families he works with. I think you're really going to enjoy this discussion. Robbie's perspective on real estate, growth, and what wealth means here in the Low Country is both refreshing and insightful. Welcome to Defining Wealth Beyond the Numbers. I'm joined by Robbie Bunting today. Robbie, thanks for coming here.
Absolutely.
So as this is about defining wealth beyond the numbers, it also includes your job, right? So what was your first job? I think people love to talk about.
Restaurant washing dishes. My next door neighbor had 9 kids, but I ended up doing the dishes.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know, but it was a great job. I mean, I loved it. It was an Italian restaurant in a small town. It was good for me. And I was young. Back then we had to get a card to go to work. Mm-hmm. I think it was called like a green card or a blue card or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then what about after that? What was your next job? Tell me about your career path.
I delivered newspapers. I painted houses. I worked in my mom's real estate office. I'm a worker bee. I like to work. And so, and I think my mom and dad spotted that right away. They're like, we can't let this kid get bored. He just needs to be out there. So they put me to work and they found jobs for me. I was in a men's store, so I learned a little bit about propriety and first impressions and, those kind of jobs. I worked through restaurants all the way through college, just to pay my way, but also to keep me busy and out of trouble. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that doesn't work. My parents would say the same thing. They also said sports kept you out of trouble.
Sure.
But so what about your job now? So you own or an owner in Hilton Head Realty Rentals Properties, right?
That's correct.
And how did that start?
Kind of evolved. We started in real estate and I really wanted to buy the real estate company that I worked for. And my boss announced one day at dinner that, he sold the company. And I'm like, well, I quit. I mean, I wanted to own this company. And so I quit and it was kind of a leap of faith. I jumped off the ledge and started a real estate company. And then through a business plan, I really should have written a business plan earlier in my life. As a young man, I really was the plan of others. Basically their goals were putting me to work. But I wrote a business plan. And in that business plan, it talked about opening up a real estate company, what that would look like, opening up a rental company, how we would start the rental company, and how we would just be build a client for life, basically serve these people in a way that they've never been served before. So one thing led that to another. I started interviewing a gal. I emailed her at work and said, I'm thinking about starting this rental company. And her boss saw their email, so she got fired. So next thing I know, I have a
good start. That was a way to get her to work for you.
Yeah. Next thing you know, I have a rental company, but I don't have any properties. So we started with one property. Now we have about 130 properties, and we're one of the top 6 companies in the short-term rental business.
Nice.
But the rental company really builds a client for life. I mean, our business partners, which are our clients in real estate, then join our rental company as clients, and we take care of their properties, even if they're not going to rent them. I mean, we have a management company that takes care of absentee homes when they're not there. Mm-hmm. And so, basically, I probably got kicked in the pants to do what I did. The first thing was my boss saying, we're selling the company. And the second thing was getting another employee fired. But it was a good kick in the pants. And the business plan is probably what I would recommend to anybody who's starting in business for themselves. Even if they're not in business for themselves, what is your business plan? What are your goals? How are you going to achieve those goals? I mean, without a plan, you're basically just walking in the woods. What does it say? If you don't plan the hunt, you're just walking in the woods. Yeah. You're just walking in the woods if you don't plan the hunt. So the business plan helped a lot.
And even I would say, even if it's not a full business plan, because a lot of times people get nervous. I don't know how to write a business plan, right? But if you just write down, and tell me if you agree, if you just write down what your strategy is and what you plan on doing going forward, it doesn't have to be a formal one. Is that helpful also?
Oh, absolutely. Just start with something. And Google is great, right? Because you can find a lot of information. You can find how to write a business plan by Harvard. There's actually an organization of older gentlemen that are retired on Hilton Head Island that were in business. They will help you review your business plan. I forget what the name of that program is, but
That'd be great. Maybe we can find that out and put it on the show.
It's probably in every town. These mentors, these older gentlemen will come into your business and review what you're doing. So so the business plan, just start with something, write it down, and it could be just a goal. I mean, it could start with goals,
and then try and break down the steps.
But try to look forward. I mean, look forward 5 years or 10 years or 15 years from now, and what does that look like?
And then back into that?
Sure. Yeah. It was a leap of faith jumping into this real estate company, and I did not work for somebody else. So, we even crunched the numbers of what this office was going to cost us, what the paper product, what everything was going to cost per month to see if we could even do it. And it was scary. It was real scary.
But it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
And you mentioned about that group, but also for me, I never really had any mentors in business, which I would love to have had. So I made some mistakes along the way, which is great because I learned from them. But did you have any mentors?
My mom. And my mom was my very first mentor. She was my broker and in the real estate business. And, I was a lazy kid. I mean, she'd shove me out the door. She goes, "You need to go talk to those people." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that." But, that's what she did. So, my mom started me into that program. My dad was kind of an early bird, gets the worm kind of guy. So he was up and he led by example. But really, my mom was probably my first mentor. And then the second mentor was a real estate office that I applied for. I applied for a bunch of real estate offices, but I didn't fit the profile. I was young and I didn't know anything. And some guy, hired me, and he became my mentor, but then I became his mentor. I mean, at one point we kind of built a company that, like I said, I wanted to own, and I helped him build it. But it evolved into that, and because he was a good teacher, right? Yep. And he kind of let go of the control a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what about any specific lessons maybe that they've taught you or that leads you now and helps you with leading others? Because as being an owner of a business, you have to be a good leader.
Yeah. I lead by example. I mean, I do think lead by the example. If you're not willing to do something, how can you ask somebody else to do it? I mean, there's business leaders that jump into their old jobs to do what their employees do now in order to, keep fresh with ideas and everything. So lead by example, definitely jump into where you need to jump in. Be the first one in, be the last one to leave. I mean, I'm a big believer. I went into a real estate office that had I called it the bullpen, and there were, 30 agents there, and they were all great, but they would come in at 9 and clock out at 5, and, they did very well. But, I was a young kid there, and so I would be the first one, and my goal was to be the first one in that office and the last one to leave all the time, and it paid off. Yeah.
It's funny to me that it's obvious that you're a hard worker, but you said during this conversation that you were lazy.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me that hard workers always have that in the back of their mind that they need to do more. It just becomes who they are.
Yeah. Just take one step forward. Yeah.
And about leading an example. So when I was in college, I did various jobs, and one was a janitor. And the foreman, he was an older gentleman. He must have been in his 70s. And he would still be the one that was there cleaning the toilet next to everyone else. And you know what? That motivated everyone else to work hard.
Sure.
Because of that example.
Yeah, and if you're going to be a janitor, be the best janitor you can possibly be, right? And so that's what he led by, right?
Yeah, well, and that motivated. So that school, it was a school, a New York City public school called Curtis High School, was the cleanest high school on the island. And it's surprising or not surprising that it's because the foreman was the first one there to do whatever needed to be done. So it made the others show pride in what they do.
Yeah. And I've had bosses like that, where, actually some bosses that didn't do what they would ask us to do. But, as a stock boy in a men's department, a men's store, I mean, we were cleaning the bathrooms and they were telling us how to do it,
So what always impressed me about you, and one of the reasons why I wanted you on here, was your entrepreneurial spirit. You've mentioned you started the business and all that. Can you just explain a little bit more or give some ideas of what drives you for that? It's the way you think that's impressive. And I think that helps others be motivated. So just give me a sense of why you think you're so entrepreneurial.
I don't know about entrepreneurial, but I love the compliment. Thank you. I think I'm entrepreneurial. I don't think I necessarily rewrote the book in doing things, but I'd like to be the best I can be, and so, So if I'm going to do real estate, or if I'm going to be a janitor, or if I'm going to do rentals, I want it to be the best it can be. I want raving fans. I work for raving fans. I want people that just, are thrilled with me because of what we have done for them. And if you create a base of entrepreneur, well, of course, is stepping outside of your comfort zone in a way sometimes. And but to have these people that we are helping them reach their goals it's a reward to me. So I don't know if that answers the question of how I became entrepreneur. Entrepreneurial, but we're building 3 houses right now on Defusky. I was on Defusky Island this morning. It's a bridgeless island, and we're taking the workers over there, and I've done it every day since May. Sometimes you take risks, but they're calculated.
Correct.
You know what I know what my fallback. Dale Carnegie. I love Dale Carnegie. My fallback is, what's the worst case scenario that can happen? I mean, these houses are costing me a lot of time and money. I'm having a blast with my brother, going over in the boat and dropping the workers off and doing the work with them. But the worst case scenario is I sell them, right? And so you always want to figure out what is the worst case scenario, but you want to take those measured risks. You don't want to live in a shell. You just want to keep on, doing something different, and that's what we're doing right now.
And to expand on that, that's one of the reasons why you were one of the first ones I asked for this podcast, because I knew your spirit was, okay, you know what? I'm going to go try it.
Sure. I'm
going to see how it works, right? I'm going to see. I have no problem doing that. Some people, they get concerned about that. So that's impressive, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming in leadership, that role, which we're going over, you were mentioning about leading by example, is that your key?
Oh yeah.
Are there others that maybe some people can hear and learn from?
In leadership, I mean, I think communication is number one. I mean, we have a group of people, and we started an EOS program, basically an entrepreneurial operating system, and EOS is communication on all levels, and it's communication with everyone, and so nobody feels like they're guessing at our office. When we first started, I didn't have the EOS program in place. I didn't have the trainers in place. I hire great coaches. And so I hired this gal out of Milwaukee, and she's an EOS instructor, and she flew down, she led our first meeting, and she set up the systems to do these EOS. I've had a real estate coach for 20 years. Every week, he gets in front of me and tells me what I should be doing or how I could do it better. But yeah, put great coaches in front of yourself, but also, with your staff or your fellow workers, just be sure you're communicating everything. And there's no rooms that they don't know. I mean, they know everything about our business. And, the goal is to be sustainable and scalable, right? So I'm working on it. My business plan is, whatever I touch, I want it to be sustainable, where it's basically paying its own way. Yeah. And then scalable, that I can grow it in a direction that I want to grow it. So, so those are 2 things I'm working with right now, is to just be sure that anything we do is sustainable and scalable.
And you say you're not entrepreneurial. This is why I say that you are.
Real estate,
Just in general, it's a thought process. Yeah. So the coach, by the way, so I have a coach in my business. So we're Alliance Global Partners in Low Country. And I hire coaches. And some people get concerned about that, right? They say, well, I don't really need a coach. Why do you think it's so important to have a coach? Because I do also.
Because sometimes I fly by the seat of my pants, but the coach is there to, work on my numbers and then hold me to accountability. I mean, a coach helps you do things better. They don't necessarily you tell you you're doing it wrong, but they do lead you to a better way of doing things, and measurable results is very important in my business. I think a lot of my fellow agents and realtors, they don't run a business. They show up and they don't have a plan. And a plan would make a difference. A coach would make a difference. They could see their numbers increase with those 2 things. So
yeah, I agree. A coach, like you said, holds you accountable, right?
Sure.
If you, as a natural human being, we stray sometimes. We have a path, but we stray, and sometimes you just need someone just to direct you back into that path.
Yeah, and I don't mean any disrespect for those that don't have a coach, but try a coach. I mean, even if it's somebody that you work with that you want to, just raise up your bar, so to speak, and it's somebody like you that I want to talk to. I mean, you don't need to go hire an expensive coach. I mean, it could be just somebody that's in the business that you admire. Yeah.
To me, I consider this a coach, right? Because we're talking, and the purpose of this podcast is for me and others that are listening to learn what drives someone to do something that maybe that can help them.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why I'm here today. I mean, as well. It's just that if I can help somebody else, this is what I'm in it for. Yeah.
So how do you think community works with leadership roles, right? How does that help? Or do you think that's important to be a member of the community and be involved in the community in a leadership role?
Yeah. So there's a big town meeting today, and my team is there, and they're making a presentation. I think that being involved in the community for our owners, for our guests, for our clients, I think it's very important that they know that we are part of this community, and we are going to, attend meetings and find out more things about what's going on. And also living the lifestyle. I mean, living the dream. I mean, we have to be able to present that to them too.
Yeah.
Being on the boat this morning, that was my office, watching a big, huge boat leave out of Harbor Town at 7:30.
It's not so bad.
It's not a bad office, right? But yeah, so being involved in the community is important to be able to convey that to the people that you're talking to, and to also show your staff that you're helping them grow. I mean, the members of my team that are there, I worked on a little presentation for them. I gave it to them, and then they modified it to their way of talking and speaking, and so it's fun.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So we touched upon it, but if there's anything else you want to add, what specifically made you want to be a business owner? Right? Not even specifically real estate, just in general. What do you think drove you to want to do that?
I always had bosses, and I wanted to be self-employed. And so the jobs that I always had in restaurants or men's shops or just I worked in a scrap yard.
But you're lazy.
The jobs I had, I always had a boss, and I wanted to be my own boss, and so I just kept on working towards that. And again, back to my mom. I mean, she was her own boss. She was her broker. She had her own office, and I aspired to that. I really wanted to be a broker and have my own office. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
But then that led into leading other people.
And then,
because that's part of being a business owner. And I think that's a successable part of being a business
then we had to learn how to lead other people.
Yeah, you make mistakes, right?
I took the Dale Carnegie course, I think 2 or 3 times, just because I had a couple sons. I wanted them to do it. But the Dale Carnegie helped me become a better leader. My trainer in the AOS program, she helped me become a better leader. I signed up for Morning Brew. They had a leadership Excel program. Mm-hmm. I love that program. I mean, it was not inexpensive, but it was like a college course. And
was it called Morning Brew?
Morning Brew is it's kind of a morning newspaper that you can read online.
Yep.
But then they have classes that they do for leadership or whatever. And so it was called the Leadership Accelerator course. Mm-hmm. And so I did it with about 30 or 40 other people around the world. And we all basically were online, working on cases and programs of leadership. And it was I want to think it was 3-month course, and it was. You need to step out of your comfort zone in order to become a leader. I don't think leaders are born.
I agree.
Yeah.
They always say, is it nature or nurture?
Yeah.
Right? That's the question. I agree with you. I think you're developed into that by putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So wealth, right? So this is a podcast about wealth, and we're going to ask you to define wealth afterwards. But I would like to know before that is, how has your vision of wealth transformed over the years? And it's different for everyone, right? It's not just financial, it's other stuff. Just give me an idea of how that's transformed over the years.
Well, buying my first house. I mean, that was huge. I mean, I prepared. I had a notebook. I had all the costs involved and my wife and I subcontracted it ourselves. But there was no way a bank was going to say no to me, but they did. The first one did, and the second one didn't. So, so having my own house, I thought that was great. I mean, that was wealth. That was the beginning of defining wealth. The first car, of course, is defining. It is wealth. But then owning your own business and owning your own building and owning your another, but it's just it's you collect things along the way, and I don't know if that's what you're asking, but it made me feel like I'm growing. Yeah. And all the time it was a step into the void. It was a leap of faith. I called the banker on the building that I was in real estate after 3 years, and I said I want to buy this building, and he's offered it to me. And the bank goes, "Oh yeah, we have no problem. You've been paying rent this whole time. You might as well own it." And I'm like, "Really?"
That's tell me now.
Yeah, I thought it was like a mortgage. I thought I'd get turned down a few times before I finally got okay. The banker is like, "No, you've earned the keep." So, So wealth is not necessarily accumulating assets. I think it's basically everybody has their own perception of what wealth is. It could be a happy married person. It could be a healthy young kid, healthy children. It's all perspective. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
everyone has different.
And I have those, but it's growing. So yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like to me, for you, it's about growth.
It is about growth.
And whether that is about growing your business, growing the people around you, right?
And letting them grow. And helping them grow.
Correct.
Yeah. We've always paid for their education. We've always wanted them to step forward and achieve a higher level. We don't want to hire somebody to just say, "Okay, you're in this job forever." Let's grow. Let's grow together. So we really want that to happen. And with my sons, I just want them to be happy and healthy. And they work for me, and they kind of develop the same principles I had. But my youngest is the first one in the office and the last one to leave. He's just like,
oh, I wonder where you learned that from. That's ladies' eyes.
I try to beat him in the office, because I want to be the first one, and I can't do it. Maybe once every week or once every month. Yeah.
Well, you've done it already, so
yeah,
maybe you got to start passing that on to the next generation.
I like beating them.
Well, maybe you will again.
Yeah.
But anyway, so look, we appreciate you having here. The one thing I just want you to also mention is just talk a little bit about the Dale Carnegie, because I took Dale Carnegie. I thought it was great. I have my kids take Dale Carnegie. It helped me grow in a lot of ways. Just tell me a little bit for the viewers.
Well, I had one son that wasn't a great speaker in front of people. He surprised me, because Dale Carnegie is a lot of, it's not putting you on the spot. You already know what you're going to do, but it is getting you in front of people to speak. And so it took his discomfort. He's totally surprised me. He became a great speaker. It teaches you how to treat other people with kindness. And, the Dale Carnegie course, it sounds gimmicky or whatever, but it's really just the basics of how you should treat other people.
Correct.
And so it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It's about that interpersonal. It's taught a lot about interpersonal skills, which, by the way, is everything. Right?
Sure.
That's family life. That's business. It's how you interact with other people.
Yeah.
So I agree. So that's why I wanted to bring it up and mention it again, because if anyone is interested, I think, and maybe you agree, they should do a Dale Carnegie.
Absolutely. And I'm surprised there's not more in this area, but they are here. We drove up to 2 hours north just to go to a Dale Carnegie course once a week, and it was time with the family. My first course was with my wife. My second course was just me and some coworkers, and the third course was my oldest son. So yeah,
that's great.
And it was the same course each time, but you always walk away with something.
You can learn a little bit each time, right? Because it might have been something you weren't paying attention to because you were focusing on something else.
You get to meet other people in those courses that are pretty interesting people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, as we've mentioned many times, this is a podcast about defining wealth, right? Beyond the numbers or about the numbers. And we probably already discussed this, but I just want to finalize with this. Currently, how would you define wealth? Currently, your stage of life.
Being able to step into a project and not worry about the other things that are in your life. So, I guess it's, building that sustainability. And so, these houses have drawn me away from what I normally do day to day. And so, it has given me a comfort zone to be able to do that. So that's how I would define wealth, is being able to step into something else that, and not have to worry about what's behind you. Yeah.
So you could just look forward.
Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, Robbie, I appreciate you joining us, and I will see you again. We see each other a lot.
Awesome.